Are you right wing or left wing? Um, my favorite wings are, um, honestly, I really like buffalo wings.
Hi, and welcome back to Through the Muck and the Mire. I'm your host, David Hollifield. I'm going to try something a little bit different today. My buddy Max, told me that Obama had this amazing speech yesterday in Pennsylvania. He said that basically he roasted Donald Trump the whole time and thought it was really funny. So he wanted me to check it out, and I figured I would just go ahead and record my reaction and see if I agree with Max. If you don't know, Obama is campaigning. He's on his own campaign trail for Joe Biden, and more than likely will be a lot more successful at campaigning for Joe Biden than Joe Biden is. So, anyways, let's just jump right into it.
Whether if you vote early or if you vote in person.
Oh, this is like 3 minutes in because he didn't say anything relevant.
To do our part, and what we do these next 13 days will matter for decades to come. And last time I was in Philadelphia, I was at the Constitution Center. And I was delivering a speech for the Democratic National Convention this year. And I said during that speech, I've sat in the Oval Office with both of the men who are running for president. And they are very different people. I explained that I never thought Donald Trump would embrace my vision or continue my policies, but I did hope, for the sake of the country, that he might show some interest in taking the job seriously. But it hasn't happened. He hasn't shown any interest in doing the work, or helping anybody but himself and his friends, or treating the presidency like a reality show that he can use to get attention. And by the way, even then his TV ratings are down. So you know that.
Somebody liked that joke.
The thing is, this is not a reality show, this is reality. And the rest of us have had to live with the consequences of him proving himself incapable of taking the job seriously. At least 220,000 Americans have died. More than 100,000 small businesses have closed. Millions of jobs are gone. Our proud reputation around the world is in tatters. Presidents up for re-election usually ask if the country is better off than it was 4 years ago. I'll tell you one thing, 4 years ago you'd be tailgating here at the link instead of watching a speech from your cars.
Okay, so what are we, like 5 and a half minutes in? We've jumped into coronavirus, and he just said that 4 years ago you wouldn't have imagined that you'd be in your car watching a campaign. Basically, you would be at a campaign live, and that's Donald Trump's fault. I understand the criticism of Donald Trump's reaction to coronavirus. Plenty of criticism to be had there. This is just disingenuous, though, because the entire world is still pretty much shut down, regardless of how well they reacted, how well they responded. Countries all over the globe, no matter how fast they hammer down, are still trying to social distance and be responsible and not have massive rallies. Europe is going into their second wave of shutdowns right now. So, yeah, sure, criticize them for coronavirus, but saying that basically, first off, all of this is his fault. I mean, it's a pandemic. It hit the United States. He couldn't really do much about that. He could have mitigated a lot of deaths. Absolutely. Definitely could have mitigated a lot of deaths. And like I said, I have plenty of criticism there. But saying that basically if a different president had been in office, then they would be able to have full campaign rallies in person right now is, once again, like I said, disingenuous.
The only people truly better off than they were 4 years ago putting food on the table because of this pandemic.
Gotta stop him again. This is what, 10 seconds later? All right, so he said two things that I want to talk about. He said that rich people aren't paying taxes, but yet Joe Biden thinks that he's going to tax rich people and solve all of our problems. Maybe figure out how to actually make rich people pay their taxes first before you rely on raising taxes for them and act like that's going to be a solution to anything. There's a lot of issues with that. First off, they're not paying their taxes. And second off, if they do have to pay their taxes, these are business owners who's, when their pockets get hurt, they're going to make their employees and consumers' pockets hurt as well in return. So there's that one. And then what else did he just say? Hold on, let me rewind that.
People truly better off than they were 4 years ago are the billionaires who got his tax cuts. Right now, as we speak, Trump won't even extend relief to the millions of families.
That's what it was, stimulus. Okay, so first off, this is a legislature issue, a Congress issue. It's not Donald Trump's fault that Congress is useless right now. It's really the duopoly's fault, the two-party system fault that we don't have stimulus, and I'm not, it's not a debate over whether stimulus is the right answer or not. It's that, if people want stimulus, it should be getting pushed out by Congress, and Congress isn't doing it, and you can't really blame that on Donald Trump. In fact, he pulled his little bullcrap and said, I'm going to pull it off the table and, make sure that we get Amy Coney Barrett into the Supreme Court first, and then they can talk about coronavirus. I was very critical of that, and I was like, that's bullshit. How are you going to dangle that in front of American people? Whatever. He came out the same day and said, if Democrats push out standalone bill for $1,200 per person, I will sign it. So he's already offered a resolution there. He pulled it off the table. Maybe it was a money move, or not a money move, but like a business move to like threaten, to keep the Democrats from being able to get anything done. And then he gave them an alternative and said, look, forget about all the extra stuff. If you give me a standalone bill to put money in people's pockets right now, I'll sign it. So once again, that was a bad argument. Bullshit.
Who are having trouble paying the rent or putting food on the table because of this pandemic. But he's been doing all right by himself. As it turns out, this was just reported in the last 48 hours. We know that he continues to do business with China because he's got a secret Chinese bank account. How is that possible? How is that possible? A secret Chinese bank account. Listen, can you imagine if I had a secret Chinese bank account when I was running for re-election? You think Fox News might have been a little concerned about that?
Fair point.
They would have called me Beijing Barry.
Beijing Barry. Yeah. True.
Not a great idea to have a president who owes a bunch of money to people overseas. That's not a good idea. I mean, of the taxes Donald Trump pays, he may be sending more to foreign governments than he pays in the United States. His first year in the White House, he only paid $750 in federal income taxes. Listen, my first job was at a Baskin Robbins when I was 15 years old. I think I might have paid more taxes that year working at a dispensing ice cream. How is that possible? How many people here paid less than that? It's possible, just possible now, that if you are living high on the hog and you only pay $750 in taxes, that maybe, just maybe, he might not know what working people are going through here in Pennsylvania.
True.
We cannot afford 4 more years of this, Philadelphia. But the good news is, right now you can choose change. Right now you can vote for my friend.
Just real quick about the Chinese bank account. That's pretty sketchy and hypocritical and ironic that Donald Trump is so critical of China and outsourcing and all this, different allegations about being involved with different countries and stuff like that for the Bidens. But yet he has a bank account in China and pays pays more taxes to China than he pays to the United States. I don't blame you for finding loopholes or, I don't know if they were just loopholes. Some of my accounting friends have told me that what Donald Trump did is actually illegal and not just loopholes. But regardless, I don't blame anybody for trying to pay less taxes in the United States. But if you owe money to other countries and you're a leader of the United States or a politician in general, it's pretty sketchy. It's not a good look.
Joe Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris as the next president and vice president of the United States of America. Now, Joe's no stranger to here. He's a native son. Scrappy kid from Scranton. You know him.
Scrappy.
You know he knows you. But let me tell you how I came to know him and how I came to love him. 12 years ago, when I chose Joe Biden as vice president, as my vice presidential running mate.
He sniffed me on the shoulder.
We had served in the Senate together, but we weren't super close. He and I came from different places. We came from different generations. But I came to admire Joe as a man who has learned early on to treat everybody he meets with dignity and respect. Living by the words his parents taught him. No one's better than you, Joe, but you're better than nobody.
You're better than nobody, Joe. Treat everybody with dignity and respect, Joe. You learned that from an early age, Joe. So why were you and Hillary Clinton calling black youth super predators 20 years ago? You were a full-grown adult when you did that, by the way. That's not treating anybody with dignity or respect, and it is absolutely acting like you're better than somebody. And the retort for that, I know, is going to be, well, the criminal justice community came out with a report that said that inner city youth, which is a proxy for young black men, were super predators. And, this is during the tough on crime stuff. So Joe and Hillary ran with it and started running around saying that they were super predators that needed to be brought to heel. Joe Biden said that they are beyond rehabilitation. These are all factual quotes. You can check for yourself. And you people that are voting for him are justifying it by saying, well, that's what everybody was saying back then. The Republicans and the Democrats agreed that crime was bad and they needed to fight it, blah, blah, blah. But you're also wanting to tear down statues of people that did good things in the past because they also happened to own slaves, because we know that owning slaves is a bad thing, even though it was the normal thing to do at the time. So let's be consistent here. Did people that did good things in the past who also owned slaves because it was normal at the time, do they deserve to be forgiven and their sins overlooked and still respected for the good things that they do? Or should they be torn down? Because right now you're saying that those people back then deserve to be torn down, and Joe Biden deserves to be forgiven and trusted to run the entire country because he just went along with what everybody else was doing.
And that empathy, that decency, that belief that everybody counts, that's who Joe is. That's who he'll be. And I can tell you the presidency doesn't change who you are, it reveals who you are. And Joe has shown himself to be a friend of working people. For 8 years, Joe was the last one in the room when I faced a big decision. He made me a better president. And he's got the character and experience to make us a better country. And he and Kamala are going to be in the fight, not for themselves, but for every single one of us. Look, I get and zero blame for the pandemic that he ignored. But you know what? The job doesn't work that way.
All right, so point to Obama here. I've been saying this, and conservatives fight me tooth and nail over it. They reject evidence. Apparently, statistics are fake when a Democrat is in office, and statistics are real when a Republican takes office. But you can clearly see the trend if you go back and look at data from 2000 to 2020. You can look at it from Bush through Obama through Donald Trump, and you can see that obviously under the Bush administration, they tanked the economy. The stock market crashed. We had the Great Recession. And then starting around 2009, the stock market recovered. It was on an upward trend, a positive trend, after it tanked. So it started down here, and it went all the way up here under Obama. And then Donald Trump took over here as it's still going upward. I'm trying to break this down Barney style for you because the people that argue with me, you sound really stupid. So Trump takes over here and it continues to go up, and they say, oh my God, look how strong Donald Trump's economy is. Completely disregarding the fact that Obama took it from down here to up here and handed it off. And same goes for the unemployment rates. So unemployment rates skyrocketed because of the Great Recession. Around 2009 or 2010, they started dropping under Obama. So Obama from 2010 till 2016 had a decreasing unemployment rate and an increasing stock market. And Donald Trump took over both of those things, and he continued them, which is great. That's a good thing. But you can't take credit for all of it. And you can't disregard the fact that Obama literally took over a crashed economy and recovered it.
Tweeting at the television doesn't fix things. Making stuff up doesn't make people's lives better. You've got to have a plan. You've got to put in the work. And along with the experience to get things done, Joe Biden has concrete plans and policies that will turn our vision of a better, fairer, stronger country into a reality. We literally left this White House a pandemic playbook that would have shown them how to respond before the virus reached our shores. They probably...
So we know that Donald Trump's administration, a year and a half or so before the pandemic hit the United States, he abolished the agency, that pandemic response agency, whatever it was called, which sounds really bad. I'm a fan of smaller government, so getting rid of an executive agency isn't really it doesn't really bother me necessarily. But obviously this sounds really bad. But the CDC has specific funding, or had specific funding, millions or billions of dollars for pandemic response. And that's kind of their job. They're already an agency that is supposed to be, planning for those types of events, and they get funding specifically for it. So I guess the reason why I'm saying this is why did we need an entirely separate agency when we're still funding the CDC to do the same thing? And then also, I can't remember, it was ventilator reserves and respirator reserves were diminished under the Obama administration and never replenished. And then, obviously Donald Trump has had since 2016, he's had 3 years to replenish that himself, and he didn't, so he's at fault there. But the prior administration is as much at fault for that too, because they diminished it and didn't recover it. So I'm going to call this 0 points for either side.
I don't know, prop up a wobbly table somewhere. We don't know where that playbook went. 8 months into this pandemic, cases are rising again across this country. Donald Trump isn't suddenly going to protect all of us. He can't even take the basic steps to protect himself.
I already said that cases are rising all over the entire globe. Europe is going into their second shutdowns right now. So it's true, but missing context. If I'm a fact-checking website, missing context. But now it sounded like he's getting into. He said Donald Trump can't even protect himself. That's hilarious. But also, aren't you surprised that it took 8 months or however many months it's been for Donald Trump to catch it? The dude never wore a mask for until like July, right? Something like that. He made fun of Joe Biden for wearing a mask at the debate, and then he caught, or well, who knows when he actually caught it, but he told the world that he caught it like a day or two later. So yeah, that is pretty funny. He can't protect himself, but also it's like kind of inevitable that everybody's going to catch it at some point, and it's amazing that Donald Trump didn't catch it earlier.
Just last night, he complained up in hearing that the pandemic made him go back to work. I'm quoting him. He was upset that the pandemic's made him go back to work. If he'd actually been working the whole time, it never would have gotten this bad. So look, here's the truth. I want to be honest here. This pandemic would have been challenging for any president.
Thank you.
But this idea that somehow this White House has done anything but completely screw this up is just not true. I'll give you a very specific example. Korea identified its first case at the same time that the United States did. At the same time. Their per capita death toll is just 1.3% of what ours is. In Canada, it's just 39% of what ours is. Other countries are...
Okay, so definitely a valid point about South Korea. And also he didn't say South Korea, he said Korea, which I don't know if that was intentional to, I feel like that's basically a jab. A lot of people might not have even caught that, but he just said Korea, he didn't say South Korea. For me, that's like North Korea doesn't even exist; they're irrelevant. But anyways, so South Korea did an amazing job. I think possibly the best job of any country in the world. But what they did was deregulate, and that's not something that liberals are fond of. So I'm not positive that a Joe Biden or even an Obama would have deregulated the FDA to allow them to create testing the same way and at the same speed that South Korea did. They deregulated their agencies, let the free market provide, and they mass created tests very rapidly and had everybody testing, which is amazing. That's exactly what we should have done from the get-go. So Donald Trump, you screwed up there 1,000%. You should have deregulated the FDA. And yeah, pushed out testing a lot sooner. Also shouldn't have lied to us. We saw from the Woodward recordings that you knew that it was worse than the flu, but you wanted to be America's cheerleader. And I think Kamala had a point in the vice presidential debate where she said that, you didn't want to create chaos, but, what's going to be more chaotic than once people actually realize how bad it really is because their family members are dying, stores are being wiped clean for toilet paper and all kinds of crap like that. What a responsible leader should have done is to bring this information to the people that are going to be affected by it, which is all of the United States and the world, and find a way to say that's like, listen, we need to take this seriously, and here's how we're going to fight it. But I don't want you to worry because we have it under control, and like I'm here for you, kind of thing. That's like what a leader is supposed to do. You don't lie about it, and you also don't create chaos and freak people out. There is a middle ground, and that's what a responsible leader should do. Let's see, what else did he say?
Struggling with the pandemic, but they're not doing as bad as we are because they've got a government that's actually been paying attention. And that means
Hold on. He said something else
per capita death toll is just one.
before that.
Done anything but completely screw this up. It's just not true. I'll give you a very specific example.
Oh, I know what it was. He didn't say it, but it's something that I thought of. So one of the issues, which is actually something that I roasted Trump for when it happened, was that he tried to act like he had more power than he does in this situation. And now Obama is also asserting that Donald Trump had more control, maybe, than what he actually did. So Donald Trump could have pushed deregulation like South Korea and stuff like that. But as far as states shutting down, that's pretty much like those are police powers that are given to governors of each state through the Constitution, through the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, states' rights, police powers allow governors to decide on restrictions, restricting, people and places. It has to be a reasonable restriction for like the circumstances. And, the only way to fight that and say that it's unconstitutional is to take it to the Supreme Court of your state or to the Supreme Court of the United States. Donald Trump infamously said, I have full authority, like the president has full authority, and that's how it should be, or that's just how it has to be, it shows his lack of understanding of the Constitution, but also it does take some of that blame for shutdowns, for shutdown control off of his shoulders a little bit, because it really was on individual states to make the decision of whether they needed to shut down or not. But I'm not trying to make excuses for Donald Trump. I think he's trash. I'm not going to vote for him. This is not an endorsement of him. There's plenty of things he could have done differently, but I think that the shutdown argument is it's a little, that part of it alone is pushed too much on Donald Trump, because that's really a governor's decision to make. Unless you just want a president to have full authority over the entire United States and he can tell every state what to do whenever he feels like, over any situation that he feels like, that's too much power. That's not the way that the founders intended the country to be set up. So there is a balance here.
Identified its first case at the same time that the United States did. At the same time, their per capita death toll is just 1.3% of what ours is. In Canada, it's just 39% of what ours is. Other countries are still struggling with the pandemic, but they're not doing as bad as we are because they've got a government that's actually been paying attention. And that means lives lost. And that means an economy that doesn't work. And just yesterday, when asked if he'd do anything different, Trump said, not much. Really? Not much?
Bad answer, Donald Trump. You absolutely should have done a lot of things differently. Basically, the only good thing that you did was shut down travel from China. I already said deregulate. You should have deregulated immediately, deregulated the FDA, told private companies that they could come up with testing and mass produce those testing as fast as possible and push that out, because that's really like the safest way to do anything is just to mass test. And then you could have quarantined people like South Korea did, quarantine people that actually test positive. That would have greatly mitigated the need to shut down a lot of places.
Nothing you can think of that could have helped some people keep their loved ones alive? So Joe's not going to screw up testing. He's not going to call scientists idiots. He's not going to host a super spreader event at the White House. Joe will get this.
Yeah, the super spreader event he's talking about, well, I guess there's been a couple now. He had a rally just last week after he was found to be positive. Who knows if he actually had a negative test before he went to that rally. And then the Amy Coney Barrett, whatever ceremony that they had before the presidential debate, the first one. If you saw that or saw pictures from it, it's a whole bunch of people walking around like not social distancing and breathing all over each other, shaking hands. And obviously somebody, I think the dean of of Notre Dame is the one that I know that she had it and she went to the event. So she might have been the cause of the spreading, but it's just careless. And, it's the same type of thing that's the reason that Herman Cain is dead right now, is because the Republicans in general are, trying to say like, oh yeah, let's just live our life as if nothing's going on, and have these massive rallies and not socially distance and not wear masks and stuff like that. So now you've got Herman Cain is dead. Donald Trump easily could have died because he, who knows how many comorbidities he has. He's definitely not a healthy person. He's lucky he didn't die. So that was stupid.
Under control with a plan to make testing free and widely available, to get a vaccine to every American cost-free, and to make sure our frontline heroes never ask other countries for the equipment they need. His plan will guarantee paid sick leave for workers and parents affected by the pandemic, and make sure that the small businesses that hold our communities together and employ millions of Americans can reopen safely. You know, Donald Trump likes to claim he built this economy, but America created 1.5 million more jobs in the last 3 years of the Obama-Biden administration than in the first 3 years of the Trump-Pence administration. How you figure that? And that was before he could blame the pandemic.
Can't argue with that.
Now, he did inherit the longest streak of job growth in American history, but just like everything else he inherited, he messed it up. The economic damage he inflicted by botching the pandemic response means he will be the first president since...
Okay, so he was on a roll there, talking about how they created so many jobs, and they created more jobs towards the end of their administration than he has in the first 3 years of Trump's administration. He was doing great there. That was a great argument, Obama. And then you ruined it by talking about how Donald Trump is responsible for ending the longest job growth streak by his reaction to coronavirus. We can't dispute, or I'm not going to dispute, some people will dispute it, but I'm not disputing the fact that Donald Trump screwed up. But once again, there would have been job loss regardless. And actually, there probably would have been job loss a lot sooner, and possibly even more of it, had shutdowns happened faster. And that's what Democrats would have done. And that's what responsible people do. That's what responsible countries all over the world did, was they shut down their economy. And that immediately ends your job growth. So even if it was just, it ended the job growth less than what Donald Trump ended the job growth with, you still ended the job growth. So again, that's just like a disingenuous argument.
Herbert Hoover to actually lose jobs. Joe's got a plan to create 10 million good, clean energy jobs as part of a historic $2 trillion investment to fight climate change, to secure environmental justice. And he'll pay for it by rolling back that tax cut for billionaires. And Joe sees this moment not just as a chance to get back to where we were, but to finally make long overdue changes so that our economy actually makes life a little easier for everybody. The waitress trying to raise her kid on her own. The student trying to figure out how to pay for next semester's classes. The shift worker who's always on the edge of getting laid off. The cancer survivor who's worried about her pre-existing conditions protections being taken away. Let me tell you something, Pennsylvania. This I know to be true. Joe and Kamala will protect your health care and expand Medicare and make insurance more affordable for everybody.
I don't know all the ins and outs of the healthcare stuff. It's definitely not my expertise, but I'm pretty sure healthcare costs raised under the ACA. And they also penalize people, which Donald Trump reversed that. But, a lot of people didn't have insurance because they didn't want it or they couldn't afford it. But a lot of them just felt like they couldn't afford it. And so what you did was you punished them by charging them money because they couldn't afford their health insurance. So you're making them pay. Like, do you see how stupid that is? Like, you're punishing poor people by forcing them to pay the government money when they didn't have money in the first place to buy health insurance. Anyways.
Republicans love to say right before an election that they'll protect your pre-existing conditions. Now, Joe and I actually protected your policies to make sure people with pre-existing conditions could get health insurance and have coverage. We did it through something called the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. And Republicans tried to repeal or undermine it more than 60 times. And when they've been asked about it, they keep on promising we're going to have a great replacement. They said it's coming. It's been coming in 2 weeks for the last 10 years. Where is it?
Where is it, Donald Trump? Where is it, Republicans? You've literally been saying that. I don't know about 10 years. I don't know who said it before. I guess, when the ACA, when Obama did that 10 years ago, the Republicans back then said that they were going to replace it, but they didn't want to protect pre-existing conditions. But now, Donald Trump has been touting that he has this great plan that he won't release, and he says that he has a plan to protect pre-existing conditions. If he actually had a good plan and it guaranteed to protect pre-existing conditions, and we're, a week or two away from the election, you think that he would already have that out so that he could gain voters by proving to them that he wants to take care of their pre-existing conditions and their health insurance. But, he hasn't done that, so it's probably bullcrap. Just like it was bullcrap in 2015 when he said he had a good health care plan.
Where is this great plan to replace Obamacare? They've had 10 years to do it. There is no plan. They've never had one. Instead, they've attacked the Affordable Care Act at every turn, driving up costs, driving up the uninsured. Now they're trying to dismantle your care in the Supreme Court as we speak, as quickly as they can, in the middle of a pandemic, with nothing but empty promises to take its place. It's shameful.
Yeah. Point to Obama. That is pretty shameful. It's pretty ridiculous. Within probably, I think, a month after the election, that's supposed to go to the Supreme Court. It might be like within weeks. It's supposed to go to the Supreme Court, and they're supposed to decide on the Affordable Care Act and whether or not they're going to overturn it. It's not a good time to be trying to mess with insurance or people's health care right now. In the middle of a pandemic, it's kind of crazy.
The idea that you would take health care away from people at the very moment where people need it most, what is the logic of that? There is no logic. Joe knows that the first job of a president is to keep us safe from all threats, foreign, domestic, or microscopic. When the daily intelligence briefings flash warning signs about a virus, a president can't ignore him. He can't be AWOL. Just like when Russia puts bounties on the heads of our soldiers in Afghanistan, the commander-in-chief can't be missing in action. I can tell you this. Joe Biden would never call the men and women of our military suckers or losers. Who does that?
All right, so I have plenty of stuff to say about Donald Trump and the military. And there was a recent video last week or the week before of Joe Biden at a military rally, and he called them a bunch of stupid bastards in jest. He said it joking to them. The video cuts off. I haven't seen anything like, what was their reaction to it. If I had to guess, either they laughed at it or they just didn't care. Because what I think was happening is Joe Biden was probably trying to appeal to our kind of like crude, dark humor side in the military. And yeah, we have thick skin. We don't really get offended super easily. So, a lot of people probably thought they might have thought it was funny. The way that he said it wasn't very, he didn't have good delivery. So it kind of came across as corny to me when I watched it. It kind of made me cringe a little bit, but I understand that he wasn't actually calling them bastards. He was like, he was trying to appeal to our crude humor. And so Donald Trump, this whole whatever they said that he said, it was an unknown source that said it. You don't have to rely on unknown sources to talk about Donald Trump's disrespect for military. So we can just completely forget about anything that doesn't have a known source, anything that's not Donald Trump actually saying it on video or on tweet or something like that, because there's plenty of information. There's plenty of videos and tweets of Donald Trump saying things that are disrespectful, like on video saying that he likes people who didn't get captured, talking about POWs, specifically talking about John McCain. You can argue all you want about John McCain's policy, allegations that he leaked information during his time as a POW, whatever. That's fair. Those, say whatever the hell you want to say about John McCain, but don't degrade POWs. Like, that's so disrespectful. Saying that you prefer somebody that didn't get captured. Especially when you're a multi-time draft dodger, and John McCain actually served. I have plenty of respect for John McCain. I also have some criticism for John McCain. But what I'm not going to do is say that POWs suck because John McCain sucks. And there have been other things that Trump has said and done that are pretty disrespectful in general. But anyways, that's my point. If you're going to attack him on military stuff, don't do it with unknown sources, because both sides do this whole unknown source thing, and then whoever the opposing side is that's being criticized is like, oh, you don't have a real source, so it just makes the whole thing it doesn't stick as well. You're throwing shit at the wall and it's not sticking because you can't say like, oh well, this is who said it.
These heroes are somebody's children, somebody's spouse, somebody's dad or mom. He understands that. And he's going to restore our standing in the world, because he knows that America's true strength comes from setting an example that the world wants to follow. A nation that stands with democracy, not dictators. A nation that can mobilize and inspire.
Point for Obama. Donald Trump kisses the asses of dictators. He acts like they are the greatest leaders in the world. If you haven't seen my I'm voting Trump 2020 satire video, go check it out. I think it's hilarious. I had a lot of fun making it. But at the end, I talked about how he looks up to dictators, basically. And it's true. There's so many, once again, like verifiable tweets and quotes and videos of him saying things that are praising Putin and President Xi, whatever his name is, the Chinese president, and Kim Jong-un, just like kissing their asses. And it's kind of disgusting because he is very disrespectful to our allies at the same time.
Others to overcome threats like climate change and terrorism and poverty and disease. And with Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day.
Fair.
And that's worth a lot. You're not going to have to argue about them every day. It just won't be so exhausting. You might be able to have a Thanksgiving dinner without having an argument. You'll be able to go about your lives knowing that the president is not going to retweet conspiracy theories about secret cabals running the world, or that Navy SEALs didn't actually kill bin Laden. Think about that. The president of the United States retweeted that. Imagine. What? We're not gonna.
That's a very fair criticism. Donald Trump needs to get off Twitter. He needs to delete his Twitter account and never get back on it. Honestly, I feel like if he kept his mouth shut and stayed off Twitter since he got elected, or even since before the election, his approval rating would be much higher than it is, because there are some things that I think he has done well, and they're completely diminished by his rhetoric and just nonsense like Twitter. It's just like a lot of people focus on rhetoric more than they focus on actual policy and stuff like that, unfortunately. And Donald Trump shoots himself in the foot every single time he gets on Twitter and says something stupid. And recklessly like threatening nuclear war on Twitter is not smart. It's also, if you invest in stocks, it also is not good for stock market stability, which is why some people have come out in favor of Joe Biden. For people that are in the stock market, people that are big investors and stuff like that, have come out and said, we think Joe Biden needs to win because we want stability in the stocks, essentially because the volatility under Donald Trump is crazy. And volatility can be good. You can definitely make a lot of money off of volatility, but you got to know how to play it. And Donald Trump makes it completely unpredictable. So,
a president that goes out of his way to insult anybody who doesn't support him or threaten them with jail. That's not normal presidential behavior. We wouldn't tolerate it from a high school principal. We wouldn't tolerate it from a coach. We wouldn't tolerate it from a co-worker. We wouldn't tolerate it in our own family, except for maybe crazy uncle somewhere, you know. Yeah, he's I mean, why would we expect and accept this from the President of the United States? And why are folks making excuses for that? Oh, well, that's just him. No. There are consequences to these actions. They embolden other people to be cruel and divisive and racist.
So I do agree with Obama here. I said something a minute ago about Donald Trump's rhetoric, and there's a lot of talk going back and forth. Is Donald Trump a racist? Has he denounced white supremacists and racism and stuff like that? He has countless times. There's like a 5-minute compilation of him denouncing hate groups and white supremacy and racism and stuff like that. But what the Democrats need to do better is not focus on trying to force him to denounce individual groups and stuff like that. They need to focus on the things that he's actually said and done that contradict his denunciation, or whatever the word should be, for hate groups. Because let's talk about the fact that he called out the squad, the congresswomen that are all women of color, that he told them to go back to their countries when they're all American citizens. There are plenty of white people in the United States that immigrated, or their family immigrated from white European countries and stuff like that. And it's not even debatable that, Donald Trump wouldn't look at somebody and they're white and they criticize America, and him automatically be like, well, why don't you go back to your country? Because they're white, he assumes that they're American and that their family lineage is American. But he looks at, AOC and Omar and them, and he's like, oh, well, they're foreigners, so they need to go back to their country because they're people of color. Some of them, I think most of them, were born in America. I think only one of them was not born in America, and she's still an American citizen. AOC was born in Puerto Rico, or she's Puerto Rican. I think she was born in New York. I'll have to check that. But either way, even if she was born in Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans are American citizens by birth. And then, yeah, basically, you would never look at a white person just because they're like, nobody looks at me when I criticize, the criminal justice system or anything like that and says, well, why don't you go back to your country and make your country better? Because they just assume that me and my family are all from the United States, which easily my parents could have come here from Germany directly, or Italy or something like that. So, that's just one example. But his rhetoric is absolutely inspiring, like, hate in people, and you can see it. I mean, it's obviously inspired hate from the left as well. They have reacted violently, but I don't think that there's any denying the fact that it has emboldened the worst of the worst people in the United States on both sides to come up out of their caves and just start blatantly saying whatever they want, whatever they think, unfiltered. And unfortunately, has also brought people to action as well on both sides. Once again, the left says that they're reacting to the hate on the right. Whatever. You're both wrong. Violence isn't the answer. But I digress.
Phrase the fabric of our society, and it affects how our children see things, and it affects the ways that our families get along. It affects how the world looks at America. That behavior matters. Character matters. And by the way, while he's doing all that, it distracts all of us from the truly destructive actions that his appointees are doing all across the government, actions that affect your lives. You know, the Environmental Protection Agency that's supposed to protect our air and our water is right now run by an energy lobbyist that gives polluters free rein to dump unlimited poison into our air and water. The Labor Department, that's supposed to protect workers and their rights. Right now it's run by a corporate lobbyist who's declared war on workers. Guts protections to keep essential folks safe during a pandemic. Makes it easier for big corporations to shortchange them on their wages. The Interior Department, that's supposed to protect our public lands and wild spaces, our wildlife and our wilderness. And right now that's run by an oil lobbyist who's determined to sell them to the highest bidder. You've got the Education Department that's supposed to give every kid a chance, and that's run by a billionaire who guts rules designed to protect students from getting ripped off by for-profit colleges and stiff-armed students looking for loan relief in the middle of an economic collapse. I mean...
All right, so once again, fantastic point for Obama. This is a win right here. This is a good one. Drain the swamp? No, he didn't drain the swamp. He just brought the swamp. He made the swamp deeper. You're bringing lobbyists into these positions, and they're just doing things that pad their pockets more. Like, I'm so glad he talked about Betsy DeVos, because that's the one I'm most familiar with, because my wife is a teacher. Just, you know, right now there's been a battle in Georgia. There's an open comment section in Georgia where they want the community to speak up and say how much they want the federal testing, the end of course testing for schools, how much they want it weighted on the final grade, because Betsy DeVos, or DeVos, whatever, has mandated, is forcing the states in the middle of a pandemic to still take the test, the federal standardized test, when there's already other testing. There's teacher level testing, district level testing, county level testing, state level testing, federal testing. There's a bunch of tests. There's a whole bunch of standardized tests, and she is still forcing these students that are in like a non-ideal environment to take this test that's supposed to be like 20 or 25% of their final grade. And high school students especially, this really can negatively affect their GPA and their ability to get a scholarship, their ability to get accepted into a college, you know, by weighting it, forcing this federal testing and then it being weighted like by 20%. So anyways, yeah, she's doing stupid stuff. She's never been a teacher. I don't know what the hell, like, how did she get there? I know how she got there. She I can't remember how much, like 10 million, or I don't know. She donated a lot of money to Donald Trump's campaign. So that's probably how she got there. She's a freaking billionaire. Her family is like one of the richest, one of the 100 richest families in the United States. So not exactly draining the swamp, are we?
Guts rules designed to protect students from getting ripped off by for-profit colleges and stiff-armed students looking for loan relief in the middle of an economic collapse. I mean...
Oh, and what I should say about that, forcing the testing being a swamp issue, is because basically the theory there is that these testing companies that have already had these contracts with the government to say like, oh, we're going to create all these tests for you or whatever, they're pissed off because they're going to lose money out of it. And I'm sure she gets some kind of kickback from that. So she wants to force the schools to take these tests so that these companies aren't losing money. And I'm sure, you know, she would also be losing money somehow.
The person who runs Medicaid right now is doing their best to kick people off of Medicaid instead of sign them up for Medicaid. Come on. When Joe and Kamala are in charge, they're not going to surround themselves with hacks and lobbyists, but they're going to appoint qualified public servants who actually care about looking out for you, for your job, for your family, for your health, for your security, for your planet. And that, more than anything, is what separates them from their opponents. They actually care about every American, including the ones that don't agree with them. And they're going to fight for you every day. They care about you, and they care about this democracy. They believe in a democracy. The right to vote is sacred. And that we shouldn't be making people wait in line for 10 hours to cast their ballot. We should be making it easier for everybody to vote. They believe that no one, especially the president, is above the law. They understand that protest on behalf of social justice isn't un-American. That's the most American thing there is. That's how this country was founded, protesting injustice.
I gotta agree with him there. It reminds me of George Washington's farewell address. He talks about faux patriots, and yeah, I think you have this false sense of patriotism by telling people that the United States is amazing and perfect and the best thing in the country, so that basically telling them to shut up because they should just be happy with what America is, and that we're just so great, and that they're unpatriotic for protesting anything that happens in the United States. That's not patriotism. There's always room for improvement, and protesting is literally in the First Amendment of the Constitution. So clearly the founders thought it was a very important thing. So the next time you want to tell somebody that they're un-American for protesting, or that they're unpatriotic, or that they need to leave the country or anything like that, I don't know. Go read the Constitution. Go read George Washington's farewell address. Open up a history book. Yeah.
They understand we don't threaten our political opponents, threatening to throw them in jail just because we disagree with them. They understand that our ability to work together to solve big problems like a pandemic depends more than on just photo ops. It depends on actually learning the facts and following the science, and not just making stuff up whenever it's convenient. Our democracy is not going to work if the people who are supposed to be our leaders lie every day and just make things up. And we just become numb to it. We just become immune to it every single day. Fact checkers can't keep up. And look, this notion of truthfulness and democracy and citizenship and being responsible, these aren't Republican or Democratic principles, they're American principles. They're what most of us grew up learning from our parents and our grandparents. They're not white or black or Latino or Asian values, they're American values, human values. And we need to reclaim them. We have to get those values back at the center of our public life.
Barack Obama just said to make America great again, and a lot more words. He said that we need to get those values back and make America great again. And I agree with what he's saying here. And I think that the left needs to pay attention, because Barack Obama is saying that the United States is good and that we represent good things and that we need to get back to representing those good things. And he's a patriot. Obama, he's saying basically he's a patriot and he loves the United States, and that the United States is a beacon of hope. And I feel like a lot of the left right now is very jaded, and rightfully so. There's a lot of things that are wrong that need to be improved. But at the end of the day, you need to still appreciate what the United States is. And, ever since the founding of the United States, Yeah, there's been plenty of things that are wrong, but since the very beginning, we've always continually made things better, and we're still continuing to do that, even if it doesn't feel like it or if it doesn't look like it. Statistics back me up here. Crime, the news, the media will have you believe that you're going to walk outside and get raped or have a hate crime done against you or something like that. But all crime, racism is down, violent crime is down, all crime is down, and has been decreasing for the last 30 years. Racist policies have been kicked out. Now we've got more reform because of the protests and stuff like that. We're still on the right track. We're still making the country better. So this whole if you are one of those people who is super jaded and is like, I don't feel patriotic, I'm not going to celebrate the 4th of July, I hate the flag or whatever. You don't have the right mindset. Like, you listen to what Barack Obama is saying right now and get back in the right headspace, because we can get through this.
And we can, but to do it, we've got to turn out like never before. We cannot leave any doubt in this election. Because the president's already said, if this is even close, I'm going to just make stuff up. He's already started to do it. So we can't have any doubt. We can't be complacent. I don't care about the polls. There were a whole bunch of polls last time. Didn't work out. Because a whole bunch of folks stayed at home.
Yep.
And got lazy and complacent. Not this time. Not in this election. Not this time.
Yeah, polls don't work if you don't do what you said you were going to do in the poll. People are like, "Oh, the polls are bullshit." Like, it's not fake. They're not fake numbers. They're those are numbers that actually got reported by people. It's just that they said that they were going to do it and then they didn't do it. So, I guess basically the moral of the story here is get off your ass and go vote.
Listen. I understand why a lot of Americans can get frustrated by government and can feel like it doesn't make a difference. Even supporters of mine, during my 8 years, there were times where stuff we wanted to get done didn't get done. And people said, well, gosh, if Obama didn't get it done, then, maybe it's just not going to happen. Look, government is not going to solve every problem. It's true. Every elected official is going to make some mistakes. This is a big, complicated country, and the system's designed so that change happens slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. And believe me, I've got firsthand experience with the way Republicans in Congress abuse the rules to make it easy for special interests to stop progress.
Really, Barry? Like the Democrats don't do that too?
But we can make things better. And we sure shouldn't be making things worse. A president by himself can't solve every challenge in a global economy. But if we've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the White House and a House and Senate that are focused on working people, it can make a difference and get millions of people the help they need. A president by himself can't eliminate all racial bias in our criminal justice system, but if we've got district attorneys and state's attorneys and sheriffs and police chiefs focused on equality and justice, it can make things better. In Pennsylvania, you just got to flip 9 seats in your state house, just 5 seats in your state senate to give Democrats control and new life for policies that will make a real difference to working families right now. It can make things better. And in the end, Pennsylvania, that's what voting's about. Making things better. Not making things perfect, but putting us on track so that a generation from now.
Okay, I like what he's doing here. I'm not saying that I agree with making, giving the majority control to either party. I would really like bipartisanship. I would really like this hyperpartisanship to go away. Again, George Washington's farewell address. Go read it, or read the the recap of it, because it's kind of confusing. But anyways, he warned against partisanship, and now we're at the point now where we have to say, oh well, now the Democrats or the Republicans or whoever needs to have full control. They need to have the presidency and the Senate and the House to get anything done, and that's ridiculous. It shouldn't be that way. But what he's saying right now is to vote for your local officials. And that's really like the most important thing. That's more important than who the president is. Because first off, like Congress is who has the most control over, things that get done in our daily life. Well, state officials do, at the local level, the most direct effect over us. But then nationally on a federal level, Congress still has, more power than Donald Trump has kind of over policy. So it's not enough just to go out for your presidential election and vote for your party candidate. Like, you need to be researching, paying attention to local matters, paying attention to local politicians. Don't vote party lines. Please don't vote party lines. Do your research and vote for whoever you agree with the most. If it happens to be that you agree the most with, all these different Democrats and whatever, but if there happens to be a Republican that's running for the tax commissioner or something like that, and you like his policy on the tax commission, then vote for him, even if he's a Republican. And the opposite is true for conservatives. Pay attention to the Democrats and the Libertarians and the Green Party and the Constitutional Party. Anybody that's running, you should know all of your options, and you should look at all of their policy and make an honest decision based on policy, not on party lines. And vote for more than just the president. Vote for everybody.
You can look back and say, things got better starting now. And that's what voting's about. Voting's about using the power we have and pooling it together to get a government that's more concerned and more responsive and more focused on you and your lives and your children and your grandchildren and future generations. And the fact that we don't get 100% of what we want right away is not a good reason not to vote. It means we've got to vote and then get some change and then vote some more and then get some more change and then keep on voting until we get it right. And we will never come close to seeing what it would be like if everybody voted. When I hear people say, well, I don't know, your voting doesn't make a difference. We don't know, because usually no more than half the people who could be voting vote. We get 50-55% of people voting, and then people say, oh, look, not enough change happened. Well, imagine what would happen if 60% voted. What about 70%?
So, obviously I think everybody should vote. I think everybody should vote from an educated stance first. And I'm not talking about like a school education. I'm talking about like an informed vote. Knowing all your options and weighing them based on your actual values. But, this is kind of irrelevant, but I don't know that if, 100% of the voters turn out, if it would actually be any different than 55%, because I don't know, maybe I might be wrong here, but thinking about it from like a scientific, a sample size of a survey or something like that, 55% of the registered voters is a pretty big sample size. That's huge. That's a lot of people. And I think there's definitely an argument that it would be representative of the other 50 or 55% of the voters. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like there might actually be much of a difference in the outcome, because that's a huge sample size.
Imagine January 20th when we swear in a president and a vice president who have a plan to get us out of this mess, who believe in science and have a plan to protect this planet for our kids, and who care about working Americans and have a plan to help you start getting ahead, and who believe in racial equality and gender equality. and believe in not discriminating against people because of their sexual orientation, and are willing to bring us closer to an America where no matter what we look like and where we come from and who we love and what our last name is, if we go out there and we work, we can make it. And we're part of an American family. All of that is possible. All of that is within our reach if we vote. Because let me tell you something, Pennsylvania, some people ask me sometimes, they say, man, how have you been able to take it these last 4 years, just watching all this? How do you keep your spirits up? And I tell them, I say, look, for all the times these last 4 years that we've seen our worst impulses revealed, we've also seen what our country can be at its best. We've seen folks of every age and background who packed city.
Listen up, Democrats. Listen up, liberals. Antifa. He's being a patriot right now. He's talking good about America and our values and stuff like that. Just listen and take it in, and please try to get this mindset. This is good stuff.
And airports and town squares, just so families wouldn't be separated, so another classroom wouldn't get shot up, so our kids wouldn't grow up on an uninhabitable planet. We've seen Americans of all races joining together to declare in the face of injustice that Black Lives Matter. No more, but no less, so that no child in this country feels the continuing sting of racism. We've seen folks, our essential workers, our healthcare workers, risking their lives day in, day out to save somebody else's loved ones. We've seen people volunteer and contribute to help those who are having an especially difficult time that right now. That's true in Pennsylvania. That's true all across the country. America is a good and decent place. But we've just seen so much noise and nonsense that sometimes it's hard for us to remember. Philadelphia, I'm asking you to remember what this country can be. What it's like when we treat each other with respect and dignity. What it's like when our elected officials actually behave responsibly. I'm asking you to believe in Joe's ability, in Kamala's ability to lead this country out of these dark times and help us build it back better. Because we can't abandon those who are hurting right now. We can't abandon the children who aren't getting the education they need right now. We can't abandon those protesters who inspired us. We've got to channel their activism into action. We can't just imagine a better future. We've got to fight for it. We've got to out-hustle the other side. We've got to outwork the other side. We've got to vote like never before and leave no doubt. So make a plan right now for how you're going to get involved and vote. Do it as early as you can. Tell your family, tell your friends how they can vote. Don't stop with Joe and Kamala. Make sure you vote all the way down the ticket. And if we pour all our efforts into these 13 days, if we vote up and down the ticket like never before, then we will not only elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we will also leave no doubt about what this country that we love stands for. We will not leave any doubt about who we are as a people and the values and ideals that we embrace. What Lincoln called the better angels of our nature, those are still in us. We see them operating every single day. We see them in neighborhoods. We see them in churches and synagogues and mosques and temples. We see them in people helping out a neighbor. We see them inside our own families. We see that what is best in us is still there. But we've got to give it voice. And we've got to do it now. So let's get to work, people. Let's bring this home. I love you, Philadelphia. Honk if you're fired up. Honk if you're ready to go. Are you fired up? Are you ready to go? Are you fired up? Are you ready to go?
He's a football coach now. So overall thoughts, he had some good points. He also had some things that were missing context or were very disingenuous. Overall, I think Joe Biden would be a lot better off if he had speeches like this. But Joe Biden, unfortunately, doesn't have speeches like this. He's not a very strong talker. But thankfully for him, Obama came out and gave a pretty decent campaign speech for him. And they probably should have done this a lot sooner. They probably should have done this like months ago, or at least like 1 month ago, because people are already voting at this point, which is kind of crazy. People are voting right now when the last presidential debate hasn't even happened. It's supposed to happen tonight. So that is a little bit insane to me. But yeah, I think that he did a decent job. But if you're an uninformed person that doesn't look at things objectively, and you heard all of these things that Obama said, you'd be like, oh man, he's destroying Donald Trump. But a lot of these things needed a little bit more context and were just flat out disingenuous. But there also were some fantastic criticisms, and I love the fact that he's being patriotic. I think that the left needs to bring back patriotism to their side, because it's not a good look to not be patriotic. And I agree with what he said. The protesting is patriotic, but a lot of the left has gotten so jaded that they don't look at it that way anymore. They just are fed up with America. They hate the sight of the. I looked over that way because I have a flag on my wall. They hate the sight of the flag. They say things like they don't want to celebrate the 4th of July. So take a note out of Obama's book and just find it in your heart to trust in America again and be patriotic. But I mean, that's pretty much all I got for you. Thanks for watching. I hope this was good. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you'd like me to do again, and with other things. I finally figured out a way to set it up to where I can actually record something else while recording me watching it. So I've been trying to do that. And now I can. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks.